maybe get into something that I think was the top request, guys, in the comments for us to discuss tonight, which is the leaked AMD roadmap information. And Jeff, one of you Jeffs, wrote this up. So take us through, what is this that we're seeing here?
Well, this is supposedly a set of slides from a financial analyst day that's supposed to happen on May 6th. It sort of lays out AMD's plans for 2015 and 2016 on both the desktop and mobile side of things. And a lot of the stuff on the 2015 slides, we've sort of seen these before. In some cases, the CPUs aren't out yet, like there's one called Godavari, which is a successor to Kaveri, which is basically just looks like a speed bump, an extra couple hundred megahertz for most of the chips. And then there's the Carrizo APUs that are coming to mobile, again, stuff that we've heard of before. But the big stuff happens in 2016, where they've got a whole bunch of 14 nanometer processors, including a successor to the FX processor. So this will be not an APU, a straight up CPU. It'll apparently feature up to 8 Zen cores. That's AMD's new x86 core. And it's going to be a socketed chip with a new FM3 socket, according to these slides. We don't know much about it other than the code name, Summit Ridge. But that is supposed to come out in 2016. I think that's kind of been the FX successor that everybody's been waiting for.
Yeah, so Zen is the exciting thing because it's the new x86 architecture for CPUs that replaces Bulldozer, that hopefully gives us more performance. And there's been some other leak slides too, I think.
There were some block diagrams that leaked out about Zen that were sort of not terribly detailed. But I think are from the same deck as these roadmap slides.
Yeah, I think they show like four cores grouped together with a kind of shared cache and some stuff like that. But it is kind of exciting to see. There's some interesting things about this. If this is, maybe somebody made this slide up. It may not be an official AMD slide. We have no confirmation of any of this stuff. But assuming that maybe it is, the interesting thing is that Zen looks like it goes from this is a new core, and it goes from the low power, small form factor envelopes that are currently served by the Puma stuff and all of that, up to the sort of mid-range stuff where you have FM2 now, to the high end where you have the FX processors now. So this is a core that spans a lot of space, and presumably, Jeff, that means a lot of power envelopes too, right?
Yeah, they don't actually list the power envelopes for the desktop chips, but they do on the mobile side, and they've got a couple of APUs. One is called Bristol Ridge, and another one is called Basilisk, if I'm saying that right.
Basilisk.
So Bristol Ridge is...
Like any fantasy novels or anything? Like, come on.
No. That's my problem, apparently. So the Bristol Ridge is 15 to 35 watt, and the other chip is 5 to 15 watt. The interesting thing about that is, whatever you want to call it, is replacing Carrizo L, which is a Puma-based quad-core chip that only went down to 10 watts. So it looks like in this kind of low-power envelope, they've got a chip that scales further down than their previous entry in that space. So it does look like a flexible core, and these APUs... there's going to be desktop versions and mobile versions. The desktop versions will have the same FM3 socket, according to the slide, as Summit Ridge, but they'll have next-gen GCN graphics on board. So it'll be an updated GPU and an updated CPU component.
Yeah, now see what the exciting thing about that is seeing the Zen core go into the small power envelopes, because to compete with Intel, they need to be able to get into the small power envelopes with their bigger core. And presumably Zen is going to, we don't know yet about performance, but presumably you'd want it to perform like a Haswell or a Skylake. Heck, just matching the current Haswell stuff would be a huge improvement for AMD, and then get into those power envelopes like the Core M does, so that they can get into ultra-thin laptops and maybe tablets and all those places where you want to play. And to go from like kind of the current situations where they have the split of two architectures, and the low power one is really slow, and the bigger core is faster, but it's not that fast, and it uses a lot of power. To go from that to this situation potentially where your big core can squeeze into really small power envelopes probably means good things for your CPU architecture. And just sort of your ability to take, if you can fit into low power envelopes, then you can probably create products that are compelling and take them up a little bit. We'll have to see how far it can score or scale and all that stuff, but it's a good sign. So, and what is it? There's some SoC versus not SoC tags on here. What's
that? It's everything basically but Summit Ridge, which is the FX replacement, has this little SoC icon. And it's interesting because Kaveri doesn't, or Godavari, which is the Kaveri replacement, doesn't. So it does imply a greater level of integration, if not sort of at the CPU die level, then maybe at the package level than we have with existing processors now. Which is interesting. I don't know if that's, again, this is sort of an unofficial slide. It may not actually mean anything, but it is interesting that there is that distinction made between Kaveri and its Bristol Ridge replacement.
Yeah, I think that, I think they integrate the South Ridge, and I think that the reason that Summit Ridge is not tagged as an SoC is simply because it doesn't have integrated graphics. Presumably that's because you'd use a discrete graphics card with that, or that same chip is probably going to be used in Opteron space, like in servers. I assume it's called the Opteron, but something in the server space, presumably. So, we're going to hear more about this soon and probably have some good information, so we probably shouldn't press too hard on this little bit of maybe not correct information. But
yeah, I could have whipped this up in Photoshop in about an hour. So,
if you did that every so often, people would just flow to the site. The traffic would be amazing.
Wait, are there other sites that do that
already? Here we are talking about this, and who knows who made this thing up, right? So.